Have you ever seen a road that seems to get smaller and smaller the farther it gets away until it just disappears altogether? Many landscapes can be drawn this way. This is a one-point perspective, and this type of perspective is generally used when drawing roads, buildings, or anything that's directly in front of you. All items in the picture will meet at the vanishing point, which is always on the horizon line. We are going to draw our very own desert landscapes in one-point perspective. Start the drawing by folding the paper horizontally in half. Crease the paper and open it back up. The fold will act as the horizon line and the starting point for the drawing. With a ruler and a pencil, begin by drawing a dot in the corner on the horizon line, the fold, and then line your ruler up with that dot and the top corner. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Draw a straight line. Keep it light enough that you can erase it later on. Next, draw a line from that dot about halfway down the second half of your paper. See how it gets really big on the right side and gets smaller and smaller towards the dot? Using that as guidelines, draw cactuses. You can see here, I'm drawing my cactus with 2 arms, but you can draw them however you like. What's important is that it touches both that top line and the bottom line. That cactus, that first one, will be the biggest cactus you draw. Now, draw a second cactus next to it, but this one you'll see will be a little bit smaller because the line is not as big. I'm still going up, I'm still touching that line. I'm overlapping. If you're not comfortable overlapping, you don't have to. You can just draw one arm on one side if that's easier for you. I'm going to do my third one, and this time you can see my trunk, the main part of my cactus, is also getting a little bit smaller because as it moves away from us, cactuses don't only get shorter or look like they're getting shorter, they also will get looking like they're a little bit thinner. All right, I'm speeding this up. You can pause. I just want you to get the full image of what it will look like. That last one is really, really, really small. And when I look, it looks like these cactus are getting smaller and smaller as they travel towards that vanishing point. You can erase that top line. It'll be easier now. And at this point, I'm just going to add a couple cactuses in the background. Now for this one, they're not going to go all the way to that bottom line. I want them to be smaller because they're also farther away. So I'm raising where the trunk of my cactus starts. Remember, you can pause this at any time. I just want you to be able to see what I'm doing. You should definitely pause and work very slowly and very carefully. The next thing is to draw the foreground, which is the closest part to us, the viewer. I'm drawing rocks and I'm making them pretty big. Bigger than even that cactus kind of. But that's because it's closer to me, so it looks much, much larger. You can add all the details you want. You could even draw a cactus really big right there, and it would go even past the cactus behind it. It's really up to you. But remember, anything close to you at the bottom of the paper should be much, much bigger. Is it cactus or cacti? Huh, I'm not sure. Go back over that crease and add your horizon line, which is where the land meets the sky. For my sky, I'm adding in some mountains. These kind of block the sky, but they're in the same part of where the sky would be. You can add as many or as few as you want. This is all up to you and your tastes, what you want your picture to look like. You could even go online and look up some pictures of deserts. That would be incredibly helpful and great research. For our road, I'm going to go back to my ruler and draw a line that goes from that end point, the vanishing point, somewhere onto the bottom half of my paper. You can see I kind of ran into my foreground, and that's okay. The foreground is covering part of my road. The second line that I just drew is the other side of my road. Now I'm drawing those dashes, and you can see as I get closer, just like with everything else in our drawing, the closer I get, the bigger those lines are. When you have gotten a rough outline of the major parts of your drawing, like your cactus, your background, your road, begin tracing over everything with a black marker. Go slow, be neat, do your very best work. You may notice that some lines are a little bit confused, so don't be afraid to change what your initial plan was so that it's something you're happy with. I'm fast forwarding because you do not need to watch me do that the entire time. Feel free to pause. One other thing you can do is begin adding details and texture. Maybe you want to add some extra rocks or plants or tumbleweed or animals. It's really up to you. And for this stuff, you can just go in straight with the marker. When you're done tracing, erase. Be neat, be careful, and get rid of all of those lines that you may have changed. This is an important step for creating neat, beautiful work. On to coloring. I'm definitely fast forwarding right now, so feel free to pause. I'm using both markers and crayons because I want a lot of different textures and values in my art piece. And I noticed that markers are really great for dark, bold colors, and crayons give me more flexibility and value. When you do your cactus, as with anything else, you can always add texture. Some ideas might be these little V's that I'm drawing on my different cactus. You can also do pointy spikes or like lines. It's up to you, but I'm trying to make mine a variety. So some I'm doing with Sharpie, some I'm doing with marker, and I'll go over those in crayon. Really just depends on what you want to do. You could even make all of your cactus look the same if you want. One thing I didn't even do for mine that I'm thinking of now is drawing lines that kind of curve down the cactus. I'm using different colors, and I'm really just having fun and enjoying myself at this point. One thing I'm doing to break up the background and just all the desert colors that I will need to use is blending my colors. So I found a nice peach, and that kind of reminds me of sand. And so underneath the peach, I'm adding different colors like red, brown, orange. So I'm putting those colors down first and then going over it with that peach. You can do that for any of the colors. You can mix orange and red. You can mix brown and red. Really, I'm adding a lot of different ones because I want it to look different. I don't just want one background that's all brown or all red. That's part of blending. That's part of thinking about how you can make your picture interesting. So experiment, go forth, try. It will be beautiful, the most beautiful desert landscape. If you're like me, you haven't really drawn anything in your sky yet. So I'm going back in with my Sharpie and I'm adding my setting sun. Yours doesn't have to be a setting sun. You may decide you want your landscape to be a midnight scene and the sky is full of stars. It is completely up to you. And I want you to make something that you really love and that you're really proud of. So maybe it's not my sky. Draw your sky and what you would like to see. I know these are going to be beautiful. It will probably take you about 30 minutes or so just to color. So this is a longer project, but I know if you're really careful, you guys will do amazing. Take your time, and I cannot wait to see these.